Okay, let's start again, now using a microphone. Security Essen 2022 is getting closer. The whole halls are being built and everybody is already excited and waits for the start of the show next week. So welcome to this year's press conference at the occasion of Security Essen. It's great to see you all here, either personally here or also joining us via the live stream. My name is Tobias Wobbe and I would like to welcome you to this press conference, and as always we'll start with some organizational comments. Interaction is something we like, and this means for all of you being here face to face, you can ask questions, and we will have a Q&A after the official program of the press conference. For those in the live stream, you of course can also ask questions via the chat, and we'll collect some questions and answer them during the Q&A. After the press conference, and this is also a good tradition, I have a meeting, a rendezvous with some of the exhibitors to talk with them about the products they will be presenting next week during the show. And even if you are not here in person, you will also be able to follow these interviews. We've got Darius, our cameraman, and the content will then be recorded and will be made available to you after the show. So as I already said, people are excited and are looking forward to the fair, and I normally would like to make people wait, but I won't do this now because the host of this fair is also really excited and would like to welcome you. So I now welcome as a first guest CEO of Messe Essen, Mr. Oliver P. Kuhrt. Well, you as the host have brought something very special for the start of the press conference. You will present the history of the security fair to us because it's a special event. Yes, this is true. Now, first of all, welcome also from my point of view. We are very happy to have you here to inform you about Security Essen 2024, not only here but also our guests in the live stream. That's really great that we are sitting here together, and as we are celebrating an anniversary, the 50th anniversary of this fair, we prepared something for you, and we used the occasion to look into old photo albums in order to see what happened in the past. And let's just take a look at these photographs. It was fun looking at all these photos again. And this is really a trip through the times of security. You can see the first show in 1974 with just 105 exhibitors and roughly 1,000 visitors. On the photos you can see that the show mainly focused on physical security, fences, mirrors. We had exhibitors like Dom, and they are still exhibiting this year. But we also had exhibitors of small military tape recorders, electronic TV surveillance. But every year security grew, both in numbers of exhibitors and visitors, and it was always a platform for innovation. And this is probably one of the most important elements of this leading fair. You could rely on the exhibitors to showing their innovations that were then also becoming a success story in the market. Now look at this picture, 1978. This vehicle strongly resembles Elon Musk's Cybertruck, isn't it? And things are coming back. 50 years is a long time. I also turned 50 a few days ago. On the photograph of 1980, we do not only see some fashion highlights, but also the big Hackathon stand. This again is a company which is back this year in 2024. And if we continue our little time travel, you can see the technical developments, because you can see some systems technologies Up there you can see the static wall full of screens, but camera systems became more and more important, and we now also see, looking forward, that artificial intelligence is gaining importance, and this of course is an industry which lends itself for security systems, and we are looking forward to all the new developments there. All the exhibitors show state-of-the-art technology, and we can look forward to a lot of innovation. Yes, and these product highlights, I already mentioned this, will already be presented today. Well, it was an impressive trip through times. It's incredible how quickly the technology developed. But now let's come back to the highlights. What will we expect this year? First of all, some information on figures. We really have a lot of innovation and novelties, at least those things we already know, but some of the things will also not be known to us, but we already saw some pre-announcements of what the exhibitors want to show. We assume that we will have more than 500 exhibitors, and this is not a matter of course, because you still have to remember that we are in the post-COVID times, and we now have 30% more exhibitors than in the year 2022. The security industry is really booming, and we have a lot of really important exhibitors here, people controlling the industry, and our visitors expect them to be here. Those who don't come will be missed, but most of the big players are represented here at the show. So it's really a highly innovative platform. And in order to help the visitors, the project team try to come up with a very good layout so that the visitors find their way and can navigate through the show. We've got the different topics, as you can see here on this chart, on the layout of the halls. It's important for the visitors to know exactly what to find where, that they can rely on finding focal points of topics. And this is why we have different clusters for the different topics of the fair. As you can see here, access, mechatronics, mechanic systems, perimeter protection, then fire and intrusion systems, digital networking security, services, civil protection and civil defense, special purpose vehicles, and video. And of course, this is dynamic. This will change again next time, but there are also some exhibitors who have solutions for several of these areas, but this is a rare problem. But we are in a very positive development here, and I would like to really thank the project team led by Mrs. Julia Jakob. They have done an enormously good job to find a good layout for the show, which also helps the exhibitors present their products in the best way. We have both market leaders as well as hidden champions and niche players, and the Security Essen is also stepping stone for young companies who start small and who then grow into big companies. It's a highly international trade show, so it's the platform to make products made in Germany well known around the world. Yes, and of course, contacts are very important. Next to the show itself, the fair is also used for networking and knowledge transfer. What do you offer there? We do offer quite a lot. The team really organized a very comprehensive frame program, and it's always important to have a framework program, but it must be digestible so that there is not a cannibalization from the stands. So you have to make sure that it's a very streamlined program, well sorted through, otherwise some of the core points might be lost. And this is why we like a framework program, but we don't want to overtax the visitors, and I think we have come up with a great solution. The chart here gives you a brief overview of the events we are planning, and you also find the information in your press kit. So let me talk about 3 highlights. First of all, the European Drone Conference. This is a very important topic. We can see this everywhere. New companies are entering the market, not only German companies, there are also countries which are taking a leading role here at an international level. But the first European Drone Conference at Security Essen will set the scene, and it is between the 19th and 20th of September. You can, of course, see beneficial and not so beneficial uses of these technologies, and this is definitely an important topic for the security industry. Then we've got the new day of the banks and savings banks on the 19th of September. You all know the problems, a lot of crime, and we had some recent attacks on ATM machines. We have to be well prepared. There are a number of protection mechanisms which can be used here, and they are presented here. So if the financial service providers and credit institutes want to be protected, they can talk to the experts who know how to do this. And of course, we also want to celebrate the anniversary of Security Essen, and we will do this for the entire show with an Oktoberfest cabin, really very robust. Everybody can go there during the day and enjoy tasty snacks. It's almost Oktoberfest time in Munich now, and so you'll have the opportunity to have a lot of good discussions during the day over a tasty snack, and in the evenings we will party. And this is also well received. Many of the companies exhibiting have their own guests, and they invite them to the party in order to also show the German mentality to the international guests. Partying sounds great, and I looked at the audience here. Everybody was following very carefully, so they are also interested. But let's stick with the party, because next to the anniversary you also have other reasons to celebrate. I had the opportunity to talk about the sales figures with some of the speakers here during the press conference, and this also seems to be a reason to celebrate. Yes, it is in line with our success story at the Security Essen show. The security industry is growing and sets new standards in the economy, and we believe that these figures are really very remarkable. The areas represented at Security Essen saw an sales plus by more than 9% since the last show. This is more than 30 billion euros. Strong sales drivers were mainly security services with more than 13 billion and electronic security technologies with more than 5 billion. But I'm happy that we have some experts here who know more about facts and figures and can interpret them. But we also use these figures because we see that this is also a pull factor for the Security Essen show, and I'm really looking forward to the presentations by Mr. Schmidt and Mrs. Okpara during the press conference, and I do not want to say too much about the figures. Yes, we will talk about figures later on, and I'm really curious to see whether these are all good figures or whether there might also be some challenges. Mr. Kuhrt, for you it's always a challenge to summarize all these emotions in a short period of time. You did a wonderful job. Thank you very much.
And we've just heard these two names, and we will invite both of them to the stage right now. Axel Schmidt will be my first guest, the chairman of the executive board of BHE, Bundesverband Sicherheitstechnik, and the chairman of the Security Essen advisory board. And three's a charm, he's also the managing director of Salto Systems. Mr. Schmidt, welcome. You've heard Mr. Kuhrt, you listened to his words very carefully, and we've heard some key figures about the trade fair. Is this in line with the goals of the advisory board? And generally speaking, what are the goals and objectives of the advisory board? Yes, it's very much in line with our goals and objectives, and we meet regularly and we talk about what we expect as an industry, as exhibitors. What do we expect of the trade fair? And I need to present novelties, otherwise I can just set up a catering stand, but anybody can set up just a catering stand, so I'm happy to be able to present novelties. And as an exhibitor, I always say we need to speak to the end customers. We need to get authorities here, the planners, the representatives of institutions. And when I look at what's happening this year, when I look at the exhibitors, that's exactly what's happening. And by increasing the participants, the number of participants this year, we've achieved a major goal. We see a turning point. The last big Security Essen was before COVID hit in 2018. In 2020, there was no trade fair, and 2022, the trade fair took place again. But if you work at a large company as a planner, I would have never planned a trade fair during the pandemic. That was a nightmare. And we also know that a number of international exhibitors and participants did not even have a chance to plan. They did not know whether they'd be allowed to travel to Germany, and hence the trade fair in 2022, from our point of view, was still successful. But now in 2024, we have an increased number of exhibitors, the halls are packed, and that is fantastic. And the pre-registrations for participants via our marketing portal requesting tickets, we are more than satisfied, and we're looking forward to Tuesday when the doors open. Well, just looking at your smiling face, that says it all. Great, you're excited for the trade fair. It's a positive development with regard to the figures. We are taking note of that. Let's look at the focal point of electronic security technology. Could you elaborate a bit more, and do you have some facts and figures for us? Yes, of course. There's a slide on the facts and figures in electronic security technology and also mechanics security technology. The figures have been increasing for years. The need and demand in terms of security for authorities, institutions, hospitals has increased. Everybody will need to step it up. If you lose a key, you know that it's a disaster. If somebody finds your key, you're not safe anymore. So digitization, electronic security, a lot has happened over the past years. Access control, video devices, etc. The mechanic sector has been stable for quite a while, for years. This is a branch which has been stable, but new buildings, that is a sector, when you look at the figures, between 20 and 30% less approvals for construction projects, 20 to 30% less doors, and in theory, 20 to 30% less electronic devices built into doors. But luckily, insulation, modernization, and all of that is making up for it, so the construction sector is doing fine. And young people coming into these jobs, there are trainees that we need to excite for these matters, and the Chamber for Industry and Commerce has just now spoken to me and communicated that they will send apprentices and trainees to visit the security trade fair. Yes, thank you for that. There are trends and there's a certain focus. Let's talk about Security Essen. How does the trade fair reflect these trends? Can you talk us through the trends and the focal points? Well, the trends have been the same for years, but one focal point which is increasing in importance is, for example, cloud-based software. What does that entail? If you operate a server these days, you know what you have to do and all the things you have to take into account for security. You have security updates that you need to run every day. And for years, if you've been following this topic of cloud and security, if you've been following this, you know a computing center in the cloud has much more potential, security potential, and many more resources to fight off attacks, etc. Cybersecurity is, of course, the key word here. So if you've missed the trend over the past years to move into the cloud, it will be difficult for you to catch up, to keep up. We have access control, and we have all of these things circling around cybersecurity, and now new construction. You have an apartment building with 100 doorbells, all of them mechanic. But you could be much more modern than that with a QR code. So you use your mobile phone to scan the QR code, and then I can connect to any of the tenants, and I can ring their doorbell, or we can talk on the phone, whether or not they're at home, regardless of where they are. I could ring their doorbell. I end up on their mobile phone. Right now, my phone is on mute in flight mode, but theoretically, the DHL postman could ring my doorbell, and I could speak to that person from here, being here in Essen, telling them where to leave my parcel. Or I could open the door for them to drop the parcel off. The postman would have to activate their video on their smartphone, so I can exactly see where they go and what they do, and then they pull the door closed behind them when they leave, and I tell them goodbye and thank you very much. So that might not be immediately connected to security, but there are so many necessities to integrate things where necessity meets comfort, and comfort oftentimes prevails. And there I need solutions that connect security to comfort. If I fail to do that, I've made a mistake. Thank you very much. Sounds exciting. We will speak in a few minutes when we visit the stands outside, and we will dive deeper into that. I'm looking forward to that. So the industry is doing fine. Yes, it is. That is your summary. But still, let's take a critical look at some topics. Let's take a look at critical infrastructure while we're at it. The CRITES umbrella law and the NIS directive. Let's look at these two and what are their implications on the security industry. Could you talk us through the background and the context? What can the industry expect? Cybersecurity is covered by this umbrella law, Critical Infrastructure Act that you've mentioned. How can I make my network safe to ensure smooth and stable operation, etc. But one thing that a lot of people did not think about a lot, I visited a lot of events where people talked about protecting the persons, but what about, for example, an airport where people do damage to the fences, climb through the fence, and then sit on the and then block the traffic there? So perimeter protection, that will need to be improved in connection with a warning which would trigger a certain set of events so that these things can't happen anymore. And the CRITES umbrella law, the law on critical infrastructure, I'm seeing people issuing white paper after white paper on CRITES, on critical infrastructure, but they are so vague, and the manufacturers don't tell us in specific terms what they're planning on doing, but there are a number of approaches. So regardless of whether it's a utility company, waste management company, all of them are part of critical infrastructure, just like hospitals and other institutions, and they have to be protected to be able to continue their operations, and in the event of damage they need to be back up and running in no time. And what's important, liability. The CEO is liable. Before it was about HSE, for example, or fire protection. You can have someone among your staff be the fire protection officer, but in terms of critical infrastructure, you can't do that. It becomes really critical if there is an incident. And I expect that what we will see over the next up to 10 years, there will be a lot of movement in this sector. Right. Maybe we'll pick up on that during the Q&A. Maybe you can specify and elaborate more on the critical points. But Axel Schmidt, thank you very much for the information, and we'll see you later again.
And I now look forward to the next guest at our press conference. We already met last week personally. She is the acting CEO of BDSW, the German Federation of the Security Industry. Welcome, Cornelia Okpara. Well, when I looked into this show for the very first time and looked at the different topics, I did not really expect to meet you. I'm now happy to meet you, but this was rather unexpected, wasn't it? Or was it also unexpected for you? Yes, I'm also happy to be here. Yes, of course it was a surprise. It all came unexpected, but just like for other companies, the association is changing. And this is what we now also saw, but I already tested to be an acting CEO. I did it for 8 months last year, and I have been in the association for 30 years now. I've got colleagues who are as senior in their employment, so nobody has to be afraid. The association will go on and we will meet all the challenges. There will be some other changes. Next year we will have elections for the executive board, and after 12 years and 3 terms of office, our president Gregor Lehnert will no longer be available. He wants to retire after a long time at the association. He will be over 70 years, so he can then leave, and so we will get a new CEO, and this is why we decided that we will only look for a new CEO next year. So, and you have to stick with me for the time being. Okay, thank you. Now, so much on what happened in the executive board, but let's now turn to the security market. Mr. Kuhrt already mentioned some figures, and Mr. Schmidt talked about his area of responsibility, but what is your view of the market situation? We also have some figures here. Mr. Kuhrt already mentioned this. Security services is an industry which is growing constantly. And here we did have a small slump in 2017, but now we can see everything is moving up again. We've got a growth of plus 12.6% in sales, and we have an annual sales in 2023 of 13.4 billion, as you already mentioned. One of the reasons for this is that demand is going up very clearly, but also because we increased sales and salaries. At present, we employ around 285,000 employees in our industry, and you can see that this is necessary to meet the demand. But there's one negative point I would like to mention. There are some insolvencies, some bankruptcies in the industry, and we depend on the companies doing well, because we are the service providers for the companies, for our customers, and if more and more companies close down, this will also have an impact on us, and at some point in time we'll no longer see this growth. Or some companies will say we'll no longer buy in services, but we'll source the services back in. So I'm really very much focusing on sales and salaries. We had major increases, and this was okay. We wanted to be above the minimum wage, and we are. But now the salaries and wages cannot rise unstoppably, because then we'll see more and more in-sourcing and we will lose contracts. So yes, the industry is doing well, but we'll have to be careful, we have to be cautious, and we have to also bear in mind for the next wages and salaries round that we've got some reasonable approaches here. Okay, you can see what the impact of growth is, but are there other driving factors you would like to mention as well? Yes, you of course all see the security situation in Germany, in Europe. It is changing quite a lot. We've got a lot of demands for public and private safety. Everybody wants more security, and this also affects us very much. A strong demand can also be seen in the field of security technology, and this is a topic that we have been pursuing for years as an association. Technology is growing, will continue to grow. Cybersecurity, we just saw outside what the robo-dog can do. Everything only works if you've got a good human-machine interface, and this will also strengthen in the future. And so our tasks have changed recently. Ever since 12 years we have been publishing a little brochure. I brought one copy here. 111 activities in the security industry. And every year we can add a few more activities, but we leave it with this name, 111 activities. And this shows the variety of our industry, and this is also good for the labor market. You've got very simple jobs. You also need some highly skilled people. You can offer everything, and it would be great if many of the security employees also came to this fair to see how wonderful this industry is and what it has to offer. The more technology develops, the more we need highly skilled workers. And I can still remember 2 years ago, I talked to Florian Graf, the then CEO of the association, and he said skilled workers are difficult to find. Axel Schmidt also mentioned this. This is still a big challenge. Do you share this view? And what are the other challenges you are seeing at present? Well, we always say there is lack of skilled workers, but also of simple workers. Yeah, I think there is one thing that you can see in the market. There was now a good situation in the field of the normal workers and employees. We can find more and more in the labor market at present, but highly skilled workers still is a major problem. And the problem is not the bad pay. It's not the low salaries. It's always said in the press that people don't get enough money. Yes, the lowest tasks, €13.90 per hour, but our skilled workers get around €20 per hour, which is quite remarkable. Sometimes they even earn more than that. For example, people in cash in transit at the airports or in property protection. So a lack of skilled workers is a major topic, but this is also due to the fact that people have different expectations. Many skilled workers no longer want to have a full-time job. They want to work part-time, and this means that we need more people in order to do all the jobs. And you asked about other challenges for the industry. Well, there will be a new legal regulation on the security trade, the Security Trade Act, which has been discussed at the political field for a long time, but it hasn't been published yet. We had a draft at some point in time, but now we don't see a lot more. We are waiting for this every single day. And we have a major need to send a message to politicians. We need this act, we need this law, but there should not be too many restrictions for the trade, because very simple jobs have to stay simple jobs also in the security field, and not all the employees in our industry need to be a highly qualified worker, because if this is required, we would not find 285,000 employees any longer. And this is our appeal to politicians. Please be cautious where it is necessary, in the public sphere, in the protection of asylum seekers' homes, for example. Yes, you need certain knowledge, but not everywhere. Is this a development that impacts all the segments in the security industry to the same extent, or are there some which are less affected? No, basically it's true for all the market segments, and especially those offering high-paid jobs. There we have difficulties finding good employees. For the more simple jobs, we don't have so many problems finding people. You can speculate on the reasons. Well, perhaps the highly paid people no longer want to have a full-time job, but the labor market is also changing a little bit. We do find people now for the simple jobs, but for the highly qualified jobs, it's still difficult. Well, Mrs. Okpara, well, our time is flying, but there's one point I have to come back to. Flying was a good word. The flight and drone days, well, I have taken something from my children's play boxes. This is a drone that I might even find here. Now, you are laughing. Probably you can't expect this drone here on the show. I already looked for this drone, but I didn't expect it to be so small. I think you already saw the big red one outside of German drones. This is a wonderful drone that we also will show on our stand. This is quite a different size, a slightly smaller drone than the one you are holding in your hand, and also equipped with more technical gadgets, although yours is also nice. Yes, we are looking forward to the drone conference between 2 days. It's in Hall 7, stand F44. But you will also find this on the program, and we are looking forward to this conference. We have a number of European experts. We'll talk about all the different aspects of drones. The development in this field is enormous. The association, it was late, but nevertheless, in the year 2020 and 2021, responded to the latest developments, and we have set up a working group on drones. Now we've got a division on drones, and my colleague who is in charge of this is very busy, because it's on the one hand about defense against drones, but also drones can do some work for companies, and these two facets of drones have different rules and regulations, so it's a lot of knowledge you need. Then you've got European laws, German laws, some regulations are still missing. Well, this is really a very comprehensive topic, and I am very happy that we can talk about it at length during the show. If you have time to go there and listen in, just do it. I can recommend this, because this is a topic which we will definitely have to deal with in the years to come. And drones are very topical topics. The Carola Bridge in Dresden just collapsed last night, and drones are used here to see what's happening there, because it would be too dangerous for people to go there. So it's also a very topical issue. I will tell my son that his drone is not a bad thing, so I assume that he will also be very happy about it. And I would like to thank you, Mrs. Okpara, for taking the time and being with us today. Thank you.
And this brings us a step closer to the real application in the real world. We've shown you the first drone here, and we'll look at the second one just outside in just a few minutes. Now we'll move on to armored vehicles, and I welcome the CEO of STOOF International, Fred Stoof. Welcome to Essen. Thank you very much for the invitation. And Mr. Stoof, in connection with these special vehicles, armored vehicles, what's the market like? What's the market situation? And in particular in Germany, is that a relevant topic in Germany as well? Yes, in Germany we see strong growth. It's a continuous growth, especially vehicles that are used for authorities or to travel abroad. This market is experiencing growth as we speak. But what are the emergencies? What are the threat scenarios we're talking about here? Who will be protected? Well, our vehicles are designed to protect against attacks for members of authorities, policemen, the armed forces, etc. So it's less private persons. Are they used for private use? I'm thinking CEOs, etc. Board level? No, it's less of what we do. Okay, thank you. Before the press conference, I've thought about this. How does such a vehicle protect the persons inside, and what's the design it has to take? And then I asked Mr. Stoof, how can we present this to the public? And he said, we have a video about it. We could take a look at it. So let's have the video first. Let's look at it, and when you see it, you will realize what the dangers might be, what the threats may be, and you maybe you can provide us with the audio, Mr. Stoof, and explain what we're seeing. Right, happy to. This is a vehicle which is tested. The threat is bullets or explosives. The data is sent to the test institute prior to the test scenario. Then in theory, people discuss what might happen, the bullets. Each individual shot is measured, the speed at which the bullet hits the vehicle, the range, etc. In Germany, there are 3 test centers, government-run test centers, that test the bullet resistance of vehicles. This is hardcore ammunition that is used here in this test scenario. This is the vehicle that we've brought along, so you can have a look at it outside. It's right outside. What we do then for the tests with explosives, we use specifically designed dummies. So these dummies allow us to see whether the skin was damaged, whether there are any scratches, where they would have been hurt. So this is stress on the roof area, explosives to protect the interior of the vehicle, not the vehicle as such. This is a DM31 which is used here. What type of forces are we talking about here? Well, as you can see, this is a 5-ton vehicle, and you see it moving here when it's being attacked in the simulation. So that's a 2.5 kilogram PETN explosive device. You see parts that go flying here, and the persons inside, the dummies that is, they are rattled, but they're not damaged. So there are 3 stars. That's the maximum that you can achieve in this test scenario. The dummies are not hurt. No bodily harm is being done, so the vehicles passed the test. Okay, that's impressive. Thank you very much. And the images are really fascinating. I know the dummies from other crash test scenarios, for example. So who carries out these tests? No, these are government-run test centers that carry out these tests. The dummies are specific ones, not the ones that you might know from the airbag tests, etc. No, what we are looking for is skin lesions, ribs that are broken, bones which might be broken, so that we see afterwards what the explosions might cause in terms of bodily harm. Okay, so we see a clear development there in test scenarios and procedures as well. Thank you for that. And let's speak about another topic. We've talked about the outside attack, but there's also the threat of an inside attack, cybersecurity. And Security Essen 2024 also offers a platform for the exchange on this very topic. So how does Security Essen cater to the further development of digitization? So it starts in the design phase. 3D CRD is used. for the layout, but then digitization is used for the vehicles, connecting them via radio, IT communication, that's important. How can I use the vehicle in a crisis area? How can I ensure a stable connection to the accompanying vehicle, etc.? Are these technologies that reflect what's ahead in the future? Or maybe you can offer us a glimpse into the future. What are you working on? What can we expect? Well, we've just now talked about the radio network, an individualized radio network, for example, for vehicles which are used in crisis areas, and that might not have a phone connection or a GPS connection. So to set up your own connection, the phone connection can be used based on JEMMA. We have JEMMA in the vehicles so that they cannot be electronically attacked or attacked by explosives, but that is the direction we're taking in our development. Okay, these are technicalities. We need to talk about this when we visit the vehicle outside. We will go outside in just a few minutes and take you along with us, ladies and gentlemen. So if you are here, you might have seen it when you walked into the building, but you will provide us with the information. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Stoof, Fred Stoof, CEO of STOOF International. And I'm looking forward to our talk outside when we look at the vehicle. Thank you very much. Right, the future has developed a certain dynamics due to digitization, a number of things that were just mere fiction in movies years ago or decades ago. Maybe some of you, ladies and gentlemen, like science fiction. Do you know Doctor Who, the TV show? Yeah, a couple of people are raising their hands. The tech support person is raising his hand. And so you might know K9. That was a robo-dog. In 1977, K9 made its first appearance in the TV show Doctor Who. Back then, it was the TV world where you invented something like that, which did not exist. But these days, you see robo-dogs becoming a reality. Why did I ask this question? Because our last guest of the official part of the press conference represents a company that is active in robo-dogs. Ingo Henke, the spokesperson of Security Robotics. Welcome, Mr. Henke. Thank you very much. That's a nice introduction. In 1977, K9 was, yes, that was the first robo-dog. That's true. That was the past, but the past has become a reality these days. Security Robotics, let's talk about your company. What is it that your company does? Maybe you can give us a brief overview. And what is your mission? Do you have a specific mission? Well, we've been around for about 5 years. We are active in robotics and connectivity of robotic devices. Connectivity, connection, that's the important idea on which we base our work. How can different robots work together to protect a building or a factory or do other things together? That was the basic idea upon which we embarked on our journey to improve the protection of property and buildings, and that was the basis for the development of Security Robotics, and a number of people have come on board since then, and we are working on just that. So you develop robots for security purposes. What comes to mind? No, not exactly. We build robots. No, we don't. You might assume that, but we don't. There are other companies that manufacture robots, a robot that is on wheels, a robot that could walk, fly, or swim. That's not us, but we are doing our research. We're researching the market, have been doing so for 5 years. We test devices and robots. We have tested so much. And some devices we thought were great. And we said, this is a device that we develop further. But this continuation of the development meant that we would enter into a partnership. We are a partner of Boston Dynamics, market leader in Germany and Austria and Switzerland. We are a partner of other companies that manufacture robots. And that brings us back to our development roots, because our experience and our tests and the results is passed on to the company that produces the robots, and they use it and in some cases implement our expertise. What we do is the payload, the dog, which is basically the backpack the dog would get so that the dog can work, to detect gas, to have a sense of smell, a night vision, a camera, depending on the order, depending on the situation where the dog would be needed. Our robo-dog would get the payload desired so that they can do what they're supposed to do. The other company produces the robo-dog, but we add the backpack to the dog, if you will, so that they can respond to the specific demand. Could you give us more examples? What tasks is the robo-dog supposed to execute? What's the demand? Well, that varies greatly these days. One thing that I think is spectacular in terms of development is to detect gases, for example. It is dangerous. It's dangerous for people to enter a building where there might be a gas leak. There's the danger of an explosion, to suffocate. You don't send a person in there. You have an uneasy feeling to send a real dog in there, a live dog. But our dog can go inside such a building, detects the gas and passes on the information, what type of gas and where. The dog might not be able to detect all of the types of gases that exist, but the most important ones. And then automation, that's the second factor. It might be AI-based, a software which leads to specific steps within the context of an intervention based on these results. And what clients also ask for, because too much AI is not good either, so you need the human factor in there. You need a human to take the decision, and Mrs. Okpara, you've said it too. Robotics is a supporting vehicle for decisions, but the decisions are taken by humans. Okay, so you don't think humans will be replaced by robots anytime soon? No, definitely not. There will be other tasks, other areas that humans will work in. Humans might not patrol the perimeter anymore, like in the past where you would patrol the property of a factory, but humans will have to take decisions or will have to trigger an intervention. That is a task that will still be implemented by humans. Let's glimpse into the future. What can we expect? And in the near future, we will speak outside again in a few minutes because you made it possible. You brought the robo-dog to the premises and we can have a look at it in a few minutes. Yes, we've brought the newest dog. It's a sweet one, really sweet, really small. It's outside. Go-To is the name of the dog. I call it Paul. And Paul accompanies me to events. I love Paul, and I think it's a better name than Go-To. So Paul is a lightweight robot. It weighs about 6 to 7 kilograms, and you can take it along in your car, and wherever you need the dog, wherever there's a dangerous situation, you can send Paul in. You can send Paul into the warehouse, for example, with a specific payload that responds to whatever demands that you need. And the payload might be 7 kilograms as well. That's quite a lot. And then I control the device from the car, and I'll be able to detect certain things inside a building thanks to Paul. That's the small dog. And then when we talk about the future and your question, we have been actively creating something for the future already, something bigger, because the main factor is to connect robotics. Different devices, different robots, to connect them across different categories. For example, the fence detection, to detect damage done to a fence. That's part of it, certainly. When the fence around the perimeter of a building is cut through, there will be an automated trigger of a robot. The robot will then go there, the robot which is best suited to the terrain. Maybe the robot on wheels would go there first, would take a picture, or would talk to that person via a control center, or the drone could go there first, take a picture, and then report back that it was just an animal, for example, that crashed into the fence by accident. It wasn't anyone breaking and entering, and all of that can be done in an automated way. And then with a person in the control room in the background who then would take a decision on the next steps. And when you think about the fence around an airport, you can just as well think about all the other options. Wherever you need security, we can provide it. We can help you with it. That's exciting. Thank you very much. But these wild boars might cause a lot of damage. Yeah, this is why we sent the robot. And this is why I wouldn't go to look at the fence myself. All right, that's a good thing because we would like to keep you around and alive and well. So thank you very much. Jochen Henke, thank you for this interview. Ingo Henke, I'm sorry. Thank you. Ingo Henke, of course. Thanks. All right. That was quite an intense discussion here. We had some fantastic guests up here on the stage. So this is the end of the official part of the press conference. But of course, we will round it off with a Q&A. So I ask all of my guests back on the stage. And this might be a good opportunity for you to take a picture. And there are questions that were handed in prior to the press conference.
And you can also raise your hand if you have any direct question, and we're happy to take your questions. Perhaps a little warm-up. Yes, we do have somebody in the audience. Or do you only want to take a photograph? Oh, I thought you wanted to ask a question. It's just for a photo. Well, okay, I will move away so that you can take a photo of all the people in the press conference. And great. So the photos session is over, and now we come to the first question that reached us online. Probably a question to Mrs. Okpara. Bert Evers from Die Glocke is asking the following question. What is the impact of the security feeling getting worse in the general public? What is the response by the public? For example, if you think of blades of knives. Well, everybody has a special feeling of security when he or she moves in the public sphere. And this, of course, also has an impact on our industry. More and more people are needed to go on patrol in the public area to give people a feeling of security, because no mayor wants to see his town being called an unsafe place. So you, of course, have to develop new solutions in the industry, and if possible, we can find solutions. But in how far the decision on the length of blades of knives allowed will impact our industry specifically, I don't know. I think it will not have a major impact on the feeling of security of people moving in a city or in a town. Okay, somebody else who would like to take up this question, because I could see some of you getting emotional. Let me make an additional comment. So having more and more security officers around is of course very important at this point. But sometimes we in Germany have a problem with data protection, because CCTV would offer a lot of possibilities to deter people. But if somebody knows I'm getting into a station and there are cameras all around, people would behave differently than if they know, no, nobody can see me here and I can do what I want. But unfortunately, Germany is making it difficult for itself because of data protection rules. People want to have safety, they want to have data protection at the same time, and it doesn't always fit together. Face recognition is another point. Internationally, we are also working on this topic very strongly at airports, borders, but in Germany it's simply impossible. We are showing video sequences here during the show because it is not allowed for us to record any pictures here on the show. Okay, again the topic of rules and regulations. And then there is another question here in the first row. Thank you. My name is Bernd Schöne. One question to the Security Essen show. I just leafed through the press kit, but for a very long time you focused on glass. This was an important part of the show where we had spectacular tests being done with a hammer, with a pistol, but I don't find anything on this in the press kit. Another topic I'm missing is classical video surveillance, starting in gambling halls down to hotels, where private people have to protect themselves against fraud. And I do not find it in the program of the show. Has this lost relevance? Isn't it too important any longer? Have the focus points changed? Thank you very much for this question. Let me ask our project manager, Julia Jacobs, to answer this question. Well, when you talk about glass, you talk about the action center that we had outside of the halls. We'll no longer have this year. We now have an area for drones in the free spaces. But this does not mean that the topic is no longer relevant, but well, we can perhaps also show some of these tests on the stands inside. So you will still find it, but no longer in the action center outside. For video, we do have video in Hall 5. These are classical video camera manufacturers, but we also saw that the video area is more and more developing into artificial intelligence and systems. We do have some providers who talk about surveillance in gambling halls and in hotels, so you have to go to Hall 5 to see them. Okay, just wait for the microphone. Another question to you. What about the Schlachthof Bridge in Bochum and the difficulty to come here? I had to go via Wuppertal to come here, which is quite unusual because as a person who grew up in the Ruhr Valley, you expect to go straight from Dortmund to Essen. Do you think that will make visitors stay away from the show? Well, on the transport situation, well, in Germany we get surprises every single day, and I'm happy to say that all the major traffic nodes that we need have been discussed and it's free. Well, suddenly this morning on the motorway we had a problem, and I talked to my technical manager and I made sure that the main traffic access will be free. For the Schlachthof Bridge that you asked specifically about, I have no idea. This is something I don't have any personal knowledge on. Perhaps you can discuss it offline. But we are in a very strong autumn for trade shows. We'll have some other trade shows following the Security Essen. We have to make sure that the major traffic routes are available, and we managed to achieve this for Security Essen. I cannot see any other requests for the floor, so let's take another question from the stream. Well, everybody seems to be excited about security robots and drones. What are the other innovations that might really become the highlights of the show? I don't know whether Mrs. Jakob might give you an answer to this question. Next to the drones and the robots that we just discussed, what are the other important and exciting topics? I do not want to preempt the exhibitors, but I can tell you that we've got a huge portfolio of different topics presented in the show. And we'll also see it outside. We, for example, also have cut and bullet resistant clothing, which is an important topic. If we read the papers every day, civil defense and civil protection is an topic for us for the first time, and there are also various exhibitors dealing with this topic. Then we also have an exhibitor showing furniture for custodial settings and hospitals. So you can expect a wide variety of topics. The exhibitors will have a lot of novelties to show us, also these special purpose vehicles or security issues. I think everybody can find something for themselves. It's difficult to just now single out one highlight because the market is so vast and the exhibitors want to present their novelties here and not announce them beforehand. And this is also inviting people to come to the show. Okay, thank you very much. This concludes the Q&A. And I think this is also a great cue to now move outside to the exhibitors, because there we can see some of the highlights of the show. I would like to thank the panelists very much. Perhaps a little applause for them. Thank you for the exciting information that they shared. Now we will see two more charts. The first one gives you access to the digital press kit in German and in English. Depending which language you prefer, you can get a digital copy. Okay, people are still taking their photographs. And then we already heard 50 years of Security Essen. This is a reason to celebrate. And we will definitely celebrate it with some photos, and you can post them under the hashtags that you can find here. So you will be able to see some impressions of the Security Essen 2024. This was the official part of the press conference. At this point, thank you very much for being here. And now we will move outside. In 2 minutes, we will be back with the exhibitors' interviews, and we have a lot to show you. Thank you.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. As promised, within the context of the press conference, there are some highlights we would like to present to you 1 week before the official opening. Anthony Humphreys of Pineapple is standing right next to me, and what Pineapple produces is specific furniture for penitentiaries. So what are these special demands or requests that penitentiaries communicate to you in terms of furniture? Thank you very much. High security, that's the key term here, so that you cannot break off any part of the furniture and be used as tools, that prohibited substances and prohibited things, items cannot be hidden. So furniture mustn't be used to barricade doors. The threat of suicide, that's also something we need to take into account. When people are in confinement, they shouldn't have a chance to kill themselves. So how do you ensure that this furniture is long-lasting? Well, in this case, the furniture we are presenting here this year, this is a single piece that's plastic casting without any screws, without any parts glued together that could be taken apart. I'm just wondering, which are the rooms where you would use this furniture? And you at home might be wondering this as well. Is this furniture used in the prison cell, in fact? Yes, that's true. For example, in prison cells, but also in rooms where psychiatric patients live, or in penitentiaries, cells, camera equipped detention cells. But we also have furniture with cushions, for example, or soft cushion furniture. But the requests are the same. You should not allow people to be able to hide anything in hollow spaces, etc. So some pieces of furniture are here exhibited. I would like to sit down now. I will now give you the microphone. It's something a moderator never does, but I would love to sit down and see what it feels like. Is it comfortable? It does look comfortable. The design is amazing. Right, this is a chair or seating furniture, for example. This chair is 60 kilograms. It's very heavy. You can't just lift it up and throw it around. You can also bolt it to the floor if you want to. The same holds true for the table. Here you can store some things. The bed, it's all made from the same material. It's a single piece, so it cannot break or be torn apart. In fact, that's true. If you would like to try it, ladies and gentlemen, it weighs a lot, I have to say. And one last question: to further develop this furniture for the future, what is important and how do you reach this final stage and the final product? Well, a large part of our development process is listening to the requirements, demands and challenges. Try to understand the challenges. You need to enter into an exchange with and dialogue with the people working there in penitentiaries, for example, or in nursery homes or hospitals for psychiatric wards. For example, this mattress, which is on the bed over here. The question arose, or the challenge arose, mattresses would be put in front of a window so that the wardens cannot look into the cell. So we have a mattress here with a 3-part core. The mattress would simply fold. It doesn't have any stability. That's interesting, fascinating. So this is why it's important to talk to the people who actually work there. Is the design important at all? When we talk about a prison cell, isn't functionality more important than design? Yes, you're right. The design elements, well, it's what we don't want is, we don't want prisoners to have designer furniture. That's not the end goal, but the design properties are important. So it's about protecting the other inmates or protecting the officers that work there. That is our approach. Okay, thank you very much. That's fascinating. And I see a number of people who would like to look at your furniture right now. Anthony Humphreys, thank you very much.
And we will continue right away with Ingo Henke, whom we just met in the press conference. Go to. This is the name of this cute little robot dog, Mr. Henke. Now we can see him live. I do not know whether you can do multitasking. Probably you can, but we now see this dog moving around, and just very briefly, as we can just see this dog, can you also tell us something about the technologies? What can this dog do? Well, little Paul can only walk around. I didn't bring you any payload, no, none of the backpacks, but it could smell gases, it can look around, it can be used as a night vision device. This dog is controlled, so I've got a display here where I can see what the dog is doing, where I can also see the success of the detection. How does the dog interact with its surroundings? If you say, you now steer it straight ahead, will he stop in front of a wall? Yes, it's not only the mechanism that it stops in front of a wall. Now it's getting more slower and it says, I would like to continue, but the dog says no, and it looks for a way to evade this obstacle. Looking to the right, looking to the left, there is a lady standing there, and the dog doesn't know what to do and where to move. Well, the audience listening in the stream didn't see this. Yes, the dog approached these two people but stopped in front of these two people. Autonomous movements, would this be possible? Because now you are the human operator, but would it be possible for this dog to be completely autonomous? Yes, all the other devices are autonomous. This is our little one that we take on patrol. But if we do property protection, we have several autonomous devices. They've got their routes and they've got their points which they have to walk by, and this can be programmed so that it's not always at the same time. And we also have an interaction between the different robots, drones, and the walking robot. And the robot on wheels is faster than a robot walking. But this means that we have to do some programming at the property, but then we have autonomous systems. We just heard that that you like this robot dog, but what about the safety of the robot dog? Is it robust because you don't want it to be harmed? Well, Paul is quite robust. It is an all-terrain robot, can walk through different terrains. Swimming is still difficult. He would drown, but you then ask whether somebody can harm Paul. Yes, well, Paul can be stolen and you can hit him with a baseball bat, but it doesn't have any defense mechanisms. This is not allowed in Germany, and we also don't want Paul to use a gun or a knife. What we say is that if somebody steals Paul, we have pictures and we know who it was. And nobody would hit Paul and kill him with a baseball bat. Nobody would do this, seeing this cute little dog. But for how long can Paul walk around? A complete shift? How often is he fed? Because he also needs energy, doesn't he? Yes, of course. He needs to be fed. Electricity is required. He can do it for 2 to 3 hours, and then the battery is empty, and then it will be exchanged and he will get a new battery. This is very fast and he can continue. Well, Paul can work 24/7 basically, and all our other systems in connection can work all day round. And the dog 1.5 to 2 hours, and it will also then sit down and another will start, or the wheeled robot can drive for 16 hours, can do more. So interconnection means that the robots all know, well, one needs to be charged, needs some feed, so I will take over, and the one is away for 30 minutes, and then the next robot will go to the charging station. Okay, interconnection again. This sounds very exciting. I also saw this morning that it can jump a little bit, so it's a real great robot dog. Thank you very much to Ingo Henke, and let me now move on to our next exhibitor, and this will be Axel Schmidt. But unfortunately he's outside for an interview, so let's move around this pillar and go to the protective clothing. Protective clothing, as we already heard during the press conference, which can be fashionable, stylish, but must be very robust as well. So welcome to Monty Hering from Eibenholz.
Yes, we already praised you prior to even visiting your stand. I said fashionable, but also functional. So, let me ask you, what is so particular about this clothing, and what do you do as a company? Well, we produce what we call security fashion, so anything to do with the police forces or armed forces. We make it stylish to make people look good and protect them at the same time. Are there specific target groups or areas for use that you had in mind? Well, in the beginning we thought about doormen or special forces that work undercover, but it has spread. People who travel, people that do a certain type of sports, downhill, all of them wear our products. You cannot narrow it down to a single area of use. Well, at a first glance, I wouldn't guess, I don't know, I would expect a protective clothing. I'm thinking of a chain shirt, chainmail. This is a piece of clothing that's comfortable to wear. It's We don't use glass fiber, it doesn't scratch, it's very comfortable on your skin, and all of these systems are modular. It means that in these hoodies and long sleeve shirts, etc., you have pockets, you have systems where you can insert something and you can upgrade it to be not only cut proof, but then by inserting the patch you can turn it into a bulletproof piece of clothing. So that's then a hoodie that is not only puncture resistant and cut resistant, but bulletproof. That's amazing. But when touching this clothing, you wouldn't expect it. Have you worn this yourself? When you wear this, have you tried to cut yourself or to use a knife to hurt yourself? Well, no, of course not. But we have people that volunteer. So that's a strange feeling, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe we can talk about this later, about the feeling when you wear such a piece of clothing. Let's look into the future. Just a brief glance. What are your plans for the future? We see vests, we see hoodies. Well, it's quite athletic, the type of clothing that we brought along to the trade fair, but we also cater for business clothing, new systems, security fashion, as I've said before, where you don't have to hesitate in front of your wardrobe selecting between a piece of clothing that will protect you and that is fashionable, but where you have both at the same time. I will have to try and wear it after the press conference. I will have to, well, I want to have a bulletproof vest. I would probably feel strange, but still, Monty Hering, thank you very much for the interview. Eibenholz is the company you want to talk to, one of the exhibitors at the Security Essen 2024 next week. Thank you very much.
And let's now check whether Axel Schmidt is available now. He was in an interview before, but now I can see him. He's already waiting. We already said this in the context of the press conference. He now brought a solution which we can take a closer look at. What is it? Well, now I have Salto Access for Com. This is a cloud-based video intercom system. Very often we have the problem that nobody is at home, but you still want to be available because you expect a parcel to be delivered. And then I've got a QR code, and if I scan the QR code, I will get to the main entrance of Salto Systems. I could open this, but then I have to select whom I want to reach. And here I say Mr. Gerbi. This is an employee who by chance is now standing there. And he will probably now pick up and open the door if I am allowed to go in there. He just told me he's there. If he's not there, I can call myself, but no, he already opened the door. Just see, thank you very much. You opened the door, so this means I had the right to get in, and you can see that I'm standing in front of the door and I was allowed to open the door. And now I can say I walk outside again, I go to another area, I close the call, and the door is closed as well. I took a look at this, and at first glance I thought, what is new about it? That you communicate via video? Well, this is not new. Yes, this is something that you can retrofit in all different single family homes without a lot of problems. And we also use geocaching, so only if you're really standing at the door you can ask for admittance. So it's a combination between comfort and security. Okay, just a brief summary. What are the advantages of this solution? Why is this something that you should retrofit in your own home? Well, it's always available 24/7 and in a very safe environment. Okay, thank you very much. In a nutshell from Axel Schmidt, and now it was not only the press conference but also the exhibitors' interviews. Thank you very much, and we now have one station left. We already promised that we also would like to take a closer look at the drone. And if my son Nicholas is online now, you really have to admit that yours is a lot smaller. So this is a big drone, more than 3 meters wingspan. So the other is much smaller. It's really impressive. The drone and flight conference, Mrs. Okpara already mentioned this, is something that you have to go to. There will be other drones shown as well. Super exciting. And then Freight STOOF. We already saw a video of a car under fire, and now Mr. STOOF is already waiting for us, and we have to walk outside and we can already see the vehicle.
And we already got some information about the vehicle in the context of the press conference. But now that we are here, I would like to hear more about the technical details, the specifications. The poor vehicle, I have to say, it has suffered. Yes, it has suffered, but it survived all of the fire. It passed the test with 3 stars, the best rating, so that's a vehicle you can use in such a scenario, and it will protect you. Just briefly on the implementation of these tests, can you simply apply for such a test at the centers overnight, or do you have to fulfill specific requirements or undergo a specific procedure? I'm sure you do not test just one vehicle one time. What's the procedure? No, we do carry out tests in-house. Of course, certain elements, certain sets of vehicles can be tested in-house, and then we set a date with the government-run test center. It takes about a week for the date to be confirmed, and then the certifications are, or the tests for the certifications are carried out on one single day, and they should also be ideally carried out on one single vehicle so that you see all the different threat scenarios and whether it withstands. So a mine explosion, for example, we saw that in the video. That was a scenario where you thought, that's amazing because the interior wasn't damaged. Let's talk about the limits of this vehicle. Where are the limits? Is there anything it cannot survive? Any bullets, fire situations? There are always limits. It's not a tank, it's a civil car for civil use, which also shouldn't be a threat in the areas, but rather a protection. We're talking about areas, unsafe areas where NGO staff is active, helping with the reconstruction, etc. So this vehicle shouldn't be a threat. You have different protection around it in the plates to the left and right, on the doors and underneath the hood, etc. How do you create a balance between stability and performance? Because the vehicle should be roadworthy, so weight is a factor here. How do you strike the balance? Well, of course, we are looking for vehicles with a stable frame. This is a vehicle which weighs about 5 tons, and we have an additional ton of load. The brake and the chassis both correspond to these requirements. We have the protective cell. The cell is inside, protecting the person in the interior, so it's not recognized from the outside. You do not see from the outside that this is an armored vehicle. That's amazing. So by just looking at the vehicle from the outside, you wouldn't guess. Well, I knew this from motorsports, that there's a monocoque protecting the people inside. We're not talking about accidents here, we're talking about attacks, but it is impressive. Mr. STOOF, thank you very much for the additional information. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, STOOF International is the company that is one of the exhibitors here at Security Essen 2024. And this is the end of our exhibitors round of interviews. This is the end of our official press conference. I hope you were able to give you some insight into the Security Essen, and we're looking forward to welcoming you here to the trade fair in Essen next week. Take care, have a nice afternoon, see you next year, bye bye.